All right, everybody. Remember how much we loved puppets growing up? I mean, those fuzzy little guys taught us so much like our ABCs and 123s and how not to be a total grouch. Well, today we're going behind the curtain to meet the creative masterminds who bring those characters to life.
Puppet designers.
And let me tell you, it's way more intricate than just gluing googly eyes onto socks.
Yeah, I bet. But before we get into all that, what exactly does a puppet designer do? I mean, if someone's dreaming of a career making puppets for stage or screen, where do they even start?
So at its core, puppet designers are the artists behind the puppets. They're the ones dreaming up the designs, actually building the puppets, and oftentimes even operating them. But here's the catch. It's a very collaborative field.
So it's more than just sketching a cute character and calling it a day.
Oh, way more.
Like, what? For example, a puppet designer might be working closely with directors to really nail the vision of the show, or collaborating with costume designers to get every detail of the look just right, and even consulting with the puppeteers themselves, the ones who will actually be bringing the puppet to life on stage or screen.
Wow, so it's like a three-way dance between the designer, the director, and the puppeteer.
That's a great way to put it. Imagine if you designed this elaborate puppet without even thinking about how a puppeteer would interact with it. The movements would look awkward, the emotions wouldn't land, it'd be a disaster. A good puppet designer thinks about all of that from the get-go.
Right, that makes sense. I'm picturing like those incredible horse puppets from War Horse. You wouldn't want some miscommunication between the designer and puppeteer to end up with a tangled mess on stage.
Exactly. And that's why this back and forth is so crucial, especially when you're talking about large-scale productions or puppets that have complicated mechanics built in.
Well, you mentioned mechanics earlier. Are we talking puppets that can do backflips and recite Shakespeare?
Well, maybe not Shakespeare yet, although who knows what the future holds.
Right.
But think about those animatronics you see in theme parks, those super lifelike figures that move and roar. That's all puppetry, too. And it requires a deep understanding of mechanics, electronics, programming, you name it.
Wow. So a puppet designer might need to know their way around a circuit board as well as a sewing machine.
It's becoming more and more common, especially in those really specialized fields like film and theme parks. But honestly, even in more traditional puppetry, a puppet designer might incorporate some simple mechanisms to make a puppet's eye blink or have a really smoothly moving mouth. It's about using all those technical skills to make the performance even better.
That's so cool. So our research also mentioned that some puppet designers work as autonomous artists. What does that even look like in the real world?
It really highlights how versatile this career path is. Think of someone like Nick Cave, not the musician, of course, but this amazing artist who makes these large-scale wearable sculptures he calls sound suits.
Oh, I think I've seen those.
Yeah, they're like puppets come to life in the art world.
So you're saying there's a whole world of puppetry that exists outside of like the traditional stage or screen.
Absolutely. Puppet designers might create installations for art galleries, design puppets for museums or educational purposes, or even work on independent film projects where they have complete creative freedom.
Okay. I'm getting the sense that puppet design is anything BUT, a one-size-fits-all career.
You got that right.
But before we get into all the different ways you can be a puppet designer, let's talk about what it's actually like to do the work.
You're right. It's not always glamorous.
Right.
Forget that stereotypical image of an artist in a pristine studio. Puppet designers often work in workshops and studios that are all about function over fashion.
So less fine art, more get your hands dirty art.
Exactly. Just think about the materials involved. Foam fabric, glue paint, it can get messy. And depending on the size of the puppets, you might be working in really cramped spaces, using power tools getting covered in sawdust.
So not exactly what you picture when you think artist then.
Not quite. And it's not just the studio environment either. Imagine you're designing puppets for a huge outdoor performance. Now you're dealing with things like unpredictable weather-challenging terrains and the logistics of moving and rigging large-scale puppets.
Wow, that sounds equal parts challenging and incredibly cool. Like you could be designing a delicate hand puppet one day and then a giant inflatable dragon the next.
You nailed it. It's definitely a career that keeps you on your toes.
For sure. So we've established that puppet design takes this unique blend of artistic vision and practical skills and probably a whole lot of problem solving on the fly. But what's the job market actually look like for puppet professionals?
Well, the puppetry industry is a bit of an interesting one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not this huge job market or anything.
Right.
But it is growing steadily.
Okay, so there is hope for aspiring puppeteers.
Oh, absolutely. Our research actually shows like a 4% growth over the next decade.
Oh, wow. That's pretty good. But I sense a but coming.
Well, there's always a but, right?
Right.
I mean, it's still a niche field,
Yeah.
which means competition for those really great gigs can be tough.
So what's driving that growth? Where are all the puppeteers hiding out these days?
Okay, so this is where things get really interesting. One big trend is that puppetry is having a real resurgence in film and television.
Really? Like beyond the Muppets?
Oh, way beyond the Muppets. Think about those mind-blowing visual effects you see in movies like The Dark Crystal, Age of Resistance.
Oh, yeah, those were amazing.
Right. A lot of those incredible creatures actually started out as puppets before they were enhanced with CGI.
So even in the age of digital effects, there's still a demand for that handcrafted puppetry magic.
Absolutely. And it's not just nostalgia either. Puppetry brings this really unique, tangible quality to the screen. Like you really feel the weight and texture, the presence of the puppet in a way that's hard to replicate with just pixels.
There's that special something that makes you believe a 2-foot-tall felt creature could actually steal a cookie from right under your nose.
Exactly.
Okay, so film and TV, that's cool. Where else are puppets popping up?
Oh, we can't forget about theme parks. They're always on the lookout for talented puppet designers to create those super immersive, unforgettable experiences.
You're talking about those animatronic pirates that left me with nightmares as a kid, right?
Yeah, well, they definitely leave an impression. But that just proves how powerful puppetry is, right?
Yeah.
It can transport you to another world, for sure.
And who knows what the future holds?
Right.
I mean, imagine puppetry combined with like virtual reality experiences. You could create these interactive narratives where it's hard to tell what's real and what's imagined.
Whoa.
The possibilities are kind of endless.
Okay, you've officially blown my mind.
Mm.
VR puppetry. We're going to have to do a whole deep dive on that another time.
Instantly.
But for our listeners who are like ready to trade in their day jobs for a world of felt and foam, let's break down what a career path in puppetry actually looks like.
Sounds good. So first of all, it's not as easy as just deciding you're a puppet designer and then boom, you've made it.
Right.
Like any art form, it's a field with different levels,
Yeah.
different stages of progression.
Okay.
And each of those stages comes with its own unique set of like challenges and rewards. So our trusty guide from RoleCatcher actually goes pretty deep on this.
Yeah.
They start with the entry-level role of assistant puppet designer. What does that actually entail?
So I like to think of it kind of like a puppetry apprenticeship. You're learning all the basics, assisting more senior designers, really soaking up all that knowledge.
So are we talking like researching different historical puppet designs, sourcing materials like fabrics and foams, things like that?
Exactly. It's about mastering all those fundamental skills. So like understanding how different materials behave, how to actually construct a puppet from scratch. You might be cutting patterns, sewing costumes, even wielding a hot glue gun like a pro.
I imagine there's a lot of observing and absorbing happening at that stage too, right?
Totally. You're watching how those senior designers approach a new project, how they solve those inevitable creative problems, how they manage the whole production process, which, let's be honest, can get pretty chaotic.
I bet.
So yeah, it's about paying your dues early on and building a really solid foundation for your future career.
It's like learning from a master puppeteer, except instead of strings, you're mastering the art of design and fabrication.
I love that analogy. Okay, so once you've honed those skills, you've got some experience under your belt, you might level up to junior puppet designer.
Oh, nice. So what changes at that point? Do junior puppet designers get a bit more creative freedom?
Absolutely. A junior designer is trusted with a lot more responsibility. They might be designing and creating puppets more independently, but usually still with guidance from a more seasoned designer.
So they're not just following instructions anymore. They're actually bringing their own ideas to the table.
Exactly. They might experiment with different puppetry styles, incorporate some basic mechanics into their designs, or even pitch their own concepts for productions.
That's got to feel pretty good.
Oh, for sure. It's all about finding your own voice as a puppet designer. You're developing your unique approach to character creation, to storytelling.
And that creative exploration is so rewarding, even if it comes with a few bumps in the road.
Oh, tell me about it.
So speaking of bumps, what about those who have like weathered the puppetry storms and risen to the rank of senior puppet designer? What sets them apart?
Well, at that level, it's about way more than just building amazing puppets.
Oh,
Yeah, senior designers are leaders. They're mentoring those junior designers, overseeing entire projects from start to finish, and often managing things like budgets and deadlines.
So it's like they've graduated from puppeteer to puppet mastermind. They're
Yeah.
orchestrating that whole design process.
You got it. They need to have that really deep understanding of every single aspect of puppet design, from the initial artistic vision to the technical nitty-gritty.
Right.
They might be called upon to troubleshoot a problem.
Yeah.
You know, make those split-second creative decisions and just make sure that the final product is exactly what the director envisioned.
And they're probably dealing with clients or stakeholders, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Like trying to balance artistic vision with budget constraints. I bet those conversations can get interesting.
You're telling me diplomacy and communication skills are super important at that level?
Right.
A senior puppet designer is often the bridge between the creative team and the clients. They have to make sure everyone's on the same page.
It sounds like the ultimate juggling act, balancing the creative vision, the technical expertise, the people management. No wonder it's considered a senior role.
Yeah, it's not for the faint of heart, that's for sure.
Right.
But for those who thrive in those fast-paced, collaborative environments and just love bringing imaginative characters to life, it's an incredibly rewarding career path.
Speaking of rewarding career paths, there's that one pinnacle position we haven't talked about yet. Lead puppet designer. What does it take to reach the tippy top of that puppetry pyramid?
Oh man, that's the big leagues. A lead puppet designer is like the conductor of an orchestra, you know? They're guiding this whole team of talented designers, builders, technicians to create something truly spectacular. And they're responsible for the entire artistic vision of a production, from the very first concept sketches to that final bow on opening night.
So they're not just designing puppets anymore. They're shaping the entire look and feel of a performance.
Yeah, exactly. A lead puppet designer has to have a really deep understanding of storytelling, character development, theatrical design, the whole shebang.
Right.
They're making decisions that impact every single aspect of the production, from the way the puppet moves to the lighting and set design.
That's a lot of pressure.
It is, but it's also incredibly exciting, you know,
I bet.
to have that much creative input.
Yeah.
But you're right, it takes a really unique combination of skills.
Like,
Artistic vision, of course, technical mastery, leadership skills. They need to inspire their team to come up with creative solutions to those inevitable challenges and just stay calm under pressure.
so not a job for the easily stressed.
No, not really. But for those who have the talent, the dedication, the passion for puppetry, it's the ultimate dream job.
It sounds pretty amazing.
Well-
So for our listeners who are just starting out on their puppetry journeys, what advice would you give them based on all of this insider knowledge?
Oh man, that's a great question. I would say first and foremost, never underestimate the power of curiosity. Explore different puppetry styles, experiment with new materials, go to workshops, connect with other artists. The more you learn, the more you'll discover your own unique voice as a puppet designer.
And don't be afraid to get your hands dirty, literally and figuratively.
Exactly. Volunteer at local theaters, build puppets for community events, create your own short films or online content. Building up a strong portfolio is so crucial for showcasing your talent and standing out from the crowd.
And for anyone who's feeling intimidated by the whole competitive side of the industry, just remember, passion is contagious. If you genuinely love what you do, that enthusiasm, it's going to shine through in your work.
100%. And speaking of finding your way in the often overwhelming world of career development, have you heard of RoleCatcher?
Of course. And it's not just for aspiring puppeteers, it's a game changer for job seekers in any field.
Right. Their AI-powered CV analysis is incredible. It's like having your own personal career coach helping you tailor your resume and cover letter to each specific job description.
And their database of employers is insane. It's global, which is super helpful for anyone who's looking to break into a specific industry or relocate for work.
It's like your one-stop shop for all things career-related. They've got resources on interview prep, salary negotiation, you name it.
Love it.
And here's the best part. They even offer a free version so you can try it out before committing to a paid subscription.
It's like having a secret weapon for your job search.
Yeah.
But before we send our listeners on a RoleCatcher spree, let's leave them with a final thought to ponder as they embark on their own career adventures. So we talked about all the technical skills, the wild creativity, the ups and downs of a career in puppet design. But what is it really all about? What's that thing that makes someone say, I need to bring these characters to life?
You know, it's funny you should say that. I think it really boils down to imagination. At its core, puppetry is about taking something inanimate and giving it life, giving it personality. It's about making the impossible believable.
That's so true. I remember being a kid and being totally convinced that Big Bird was real. Like he had actual thoughts and feelings.
Precisely. And that's the magic that a puppet designer helps create. They take a director's vision, a writer's words, and they turn them into a living, breathing being that can evoke so much. Joy, wonder, even fear. They're not just building puppets, they're building belief.
That's a really powerful way to put it. And it makes me think of those larger-than-life puppets you see at parades or festivals. You know, the kind that tower over everyone and move with this grace that seems impossible?
Oh, yeah, those are amazing. Those puppets are often the result of this incredible team of designers and engineers all working in sync. They have to think about weight distribution, wind resistance, how to make these huge structures move effortlessly. It's a real fusion of art and physics.
You're making me want to drop everything and go design a giant inflatable octopus for the next parade I see.
I'm telling you, do it. You'd be surprised what amazing creations you can come up with if you just let that playfulness take over. And honestly, that's my advice to anyone listening who feels that little spark of inspiration.
I love it. So to kind of wrap up our deep dive into the world of puppet design, I think we can all agree it's a lot more than meets the eye. It's about collaboration and creative problem solving and a whole lot of heart.
100%. And it's a career path that truly rewards curiosity, persistence, a willingness to push the boundaries of what's possible.
If you're ready to explore those possibilities, we highly recommend checking out the resources over at RoleCatcher. Whether you're taking your first steps toward a career in puppetry or any field that excites you, they've got the tools and the guidance to help you along the way.
And never forget the most important tool you have is your own imagination. So go out there, experiment, make something amazing, and never ever stop believing in the power of creativity.
Beautifully said. That's a wrap on today's deep dive into the world of puppet design. Until next time, keep exploring, keep creating, and we'll catch you in the next episode.